Hi everyone. Today we're going to talk about water and why water is life's most essential molecule. So let's get started. So why is water so important? Well, a lot of scientists believe that life actually began in water. 70% or more of our cells are made up of water. This is a microscopic image of a cell, and most of the cell is actually made up of water, and we're made up of cells. Water's unique properties support life, and we're going to talk about how in this video. So let's talk about the structure of a water molecule. A water molecule is made up of two hydrogen atoms bonded to one oxygen atoms, and that's why we say the chemical formula for this is H2O. So this makes water a polar molecule, meaning that it has uneven charge distribution. That oxygen molecule has a negative charge, and the oxygen atom has a negative charge, and the hydrogen atom has have a positive charge, making this atom or molecule polar. And water kind of flows like this. These atoms or molecules are bonded together with very weak hydrogen bonds. So, speaking of hydrogen bonding, water is the bonded with other water molecules through very weak bonds of hydrogen. So you can see the white is hydrogen, and it bonds very weakly to other oxygen atoms for the water to kind of stick together. And water molecules sticking to each other is something we call cohesion, and this actually enables water to create like a kind of a thin film, enabling certain organisms like insects to even walk on water. Water can also have adhesion properties, meaning not only does it stick together through weak bonds, it can stick to other structures such as, say, a glass if you pour water into it. So, those are some unique properties of water that help support life. So, what are some other unique properties? Well, water has something called a high heat capacity, and this just means that if you add heat to water, then that water takes a very long time to not only heat up but also cool down. So if you have an empty pan versus a pan filled with water, and you heat both of those pans up, the one filled with water will actually heat up a lot slower and steadier than the one without water. And that's what we mean by high heat capacity. The change in temperature in water is not abrupt. It's a very slow and steady change. And another unique thing about water is that when water freezes, it turns into ice. But when it does freeze and turn into ice, it becomes less dense, meaning the molecules within the water, the structure of the molecules, they're actually farther apart. There's more space between the molecules. And this causes ice to float on top of regular water. And that ice actually insulates life below water during freezing temperatures, such as the winter. Water is also an excellent solvent, meaning um, it can dissolve many types of materials such as salts and sugars, which makes it perfect for our body, for water, for us to even be able to absorb the essential nutrients that we need. So water and temperature regulation, we talked about water having a high heat capacity. Another word for this is specific heat, meaning water needs a lot of heat to warm up. It doesn't just warm up or cool down that easily. It takes time and takes a lot of heat and energy to do so. And because we're made up of so much water, this water helps us regulate our body temperature, and our body's heat also doesn't temperature doesn't just move around drastically because of the water we have. This also regulates Earth's temperature. Our the oceans on Earth helps keep the temperature stable. The water enables the temperatures to not rise too drastically or fall too drastically. When water evaporates as well, it actually helps us cool down and cool Earth's surfaces as well. So these are some advantages that water has for life on Earth. We talked about ice floating before. Water is unique because when it turns into ice or freezes, it actually becomes less dense and floats on top of water, just like you see here. And this actually forms a protective layer on top of the oceans and other water surfaces in the wintertime because it insulates the bottom and keeps that warm environment for the fishes to stay alive, or just life to stay alive below the frozen water, which is nice. So we also talked about water being a really good solvent, and water dissolves polar and charged substances. So because water is charged, or it's polar, it can also split apart other polar substances that have charges and attract to them. And this is very helpful for us because since it can dissolve most things, we are able to, all that water in us, in our human bodies, are very beneficial in transporting nutrients and waste because it dissolves those things. Now, let's talk about acids, bases, and pH. pH, when we're talking about how acidic something is, we talk about its pH, and pH just means how many hydrogen ions do you have? What is the concentration of hydrogen ions? If you have a high concentration of hydrogen ions, then your solution is very acidic. If you have a low concentration of hydrogen ion or more hydroxide ions, which is OH, just like you see here, then it's actually more basic on the other spectrum. And that's how we have the scale, a pH scale that tells us how acidic or basic something else. 0 to 6 is acidic, 7 is neutral, and 8 to 14 is more basic. And water helps with balancing the pH in our bodies. As you can see, if water releases a hydrogen, then it can cause things to become acidic. If it has more hydroxide ions from the water, then it becomes more basic. And buffers in our human body work with our organs such as kidneys to help maintain the balance of hydrogen or hydroxide ions in our blood, and urine to help us balance our acidity levels. So our kidneys function, and the buffer called bicarbonate functions to balance the amount of hydrogen that is in our blood or in our urine to help our bodies be the perfect pH or acidity level so that chemical reactions can happen and to help regulate our bodies and keep us alive. So, in summary, water is polar and forms hydrogen bonds, very weak hydrogen bonds, and it has a charge. And it supports life with cohesion, meaning the water molecules bond together. It has a high heat capacity, meaning it doesn't change temperature so drastically. It needs a lot of energy to change temperature, and it is a great solvent. It can dissolve many substances, causing helping us to transfer nutrients and waste throughout our bodies. It helps us regulate temperatures because of its high heat capacity or specific heat, and it enables chemical reactions to happen. And this is why water is essential for cells and ecosystems to stay alive. So, what's next? In the next video, we'll talk about carbon, which is the backbone of all life. Why is carbon so versatile? How does carbon build life's molecules? And what are functional groups and molecular diversity? And that's it. Thank you.